Welcome back to Eastern Creek International Raceway, the 8-hour enduro. There is the 16 car, the Bezcorp security machine of Nilsson, Matthews, Holden and Keane in pit lane, and a flat tyre. Once again, right-hand front, they are copping a pounding today.
They sure are, but this is the only problem so far for this team, the Toyota Yaris, one of the most reliable cars in Australian production car racing, and you can see there, though, the front right-hand tyre has been absolutely destroyed. The team taking the opportunity to change it.
Now, there could be a couple of reasons for that. The car's running A, too much camber, or B, just dipping a wheel off the edge of the circuit at the wrong part, and as a result of that, clipping a little bit of the tar that's out there and cutting the tyre open. A number of possible reasons why a tyre can go down that way, but at the end of the day, it's just because they're working darn hard.
With the track temperatures as high as they are and the extreme forces on the front right-hand tyres, particularly through those high-speed corners, I'm actually surprised there haven't been more front tyre failures than what there have been so far.
Here's the great thing about this type of racing. There is the Triple O machine on screen as we catch the 35 product car down in pit lane, currently in second spot, and getting a top up of fuel.
And Neil Crompton back in that car as well. So Crompton taking over from Glenn Seaton. So Seaton stints over, Neil Crompton's in the car for his second stint. The fuel stop has finished and the car gets the go signal.
Oh, fire! Fire in pit lane! The Crompton car has left a trail of fire. Now is the car on fire? It is. The fire extinguishers are out. Scott Anderson there, team manager, you'll see with the green shirt on the fire extinguisher, and other crews have come out into pit lane to try and put out this Mitsubishi. Fortunately, the fire is out. Crompton's A-OK, and he'll be out of that car in a sec too. And I don't say that lightly. Is he trying to... No, there's fuel leaking. Don't start it up again. They're going to push it back, he's been told. Scott Anderson and the team now pushing the car down pit lane. Well, that's not what we expected to see in the pits. Neil Crompton would not be happy to be seeing that much fuel pouring out of the back of his race car.
We're here with Neil Crompton, who just had to make a very fast near exit out of the passenger side of the door. That would have been a bit scary for you.
Yeah, I could see in the rear view mirror that there was an enormous amount of flame behind me, and then there was some of it in the cabin, so I could actually feel it up under my helmet, and so I tried to go out the passenger's door and the friggin' thing wouldn't open, and so then I just got out the right. I could hear people screaming that there was fuel pouring out of it, so I just need to get out of it. Once they let all the extinguisher material go, you can't breathe, it chokes you, so yeah, not very good, and they're still losing a heap of fuel under there now. You can see it pouring out of it, so.
Very disappointing for you, doing so well, you two.
Yeah, oh, well, that's showbiz. We've seen all that stuff before, so it's just another new line to add to a wild book one day.
Do you reckon that that's the fastest your heart has gone this weekend?
Oh, yeah, I mean, fire's a bad thing in a race car, so I didn't want to, as soon as I could hear people talking about fuel pouring out of it, then that's a major problem, so yeah, but we're okay, all brand new, live to fight another day.
I know you said you got nothing good to say, but you've got to talk us through this. What's going on?
For some unapparent reason, it's done a fuel line and we're pumping fuel everywhere. Really disappointing because we just got good tyres on the car and we actually thought we could have ran the VIP car down, so bit of bad luck. Motorsport apparently, they tell me.
Yeah, it happens way too often, doesn't it?
Yeah, too often, yeah, especially today.
Yeah, it is a shame. I don't think I've ever seen Crompton move that fast.
Yeah, no, I don't know why he jumped out. The safest place was in the car. Anyway, no, it's all good. We've got 2 more cars going. We'll focus on them. Thanks, guys.
Scotty Anderson knows the trials and tribulations of motorsport. He's a multiple production car and a multiple performance car champion team manager, and that's what's left of his product machine at the moment. Now, if you missed it, this is exactly what transpired. He got the go, and unfortunately there was fuel pouring out of the back of the car. They put that out in pit lane, but the concern was the race car itself. Now you can see teams from up and down pit lane, even Scott Anderson, fire marshals, everybody running down to the car. And having worked in V8 supercars for so long, Lockie, I can tell you what Neil Crompton was saying was 100% right. When they let off a fire extinguisher next to you, and I've had it happen a couple of times, it sucks the air out. That's how it puts out the fire, and that's not good for your lungs.
No, so no wonder Neil Crompton wanted to get out of the car so quickly, but I'll tell you what, Boydo, what a fantastic job from the fire marshals, everyone in pit lane, to get onto the scene with their fire extinguishers so quickly, because that could have very quickly escalated into a very nasty situation.
And of course, it's not just the cars that have got fuel in them, it's all the garages as well, just like what we're looking at here. The fuel hoses, all of those were potentially able to catch fire if that fire wasn't put out quickly, and that's why it's so important that we've got fire marshals at the ready, exactly like that, so that if something does happen, they're right on the scene and able to rectify that situation nice and quickly.
The number 77 car making another fuel stop, the VIP Pet Foods. Tony and Clark Quinn, Mitsubishi Evo 9 continues to lead the Eastern Creek 8 Hour, as we see the Subaru rejoining just ahead of the Tony and Clark Quinn car, and just behind one of the remaining product Mitsubishi Evo 10s, the Mark King car.
Don't know if it'll be there for too much longer. Look at the Quinn car, yep, gives him plenty of room, because you can see that the VIP Pet Foods machine was on a mission, and they didn't want to get tangled up, particularly just coming out of pit lane. Colder tyres, they would have had a little bit of time to cool down, and of course cooler heads too. You need that in endurance racing. Important to make it to the last hour of the race. Then if you want to get racing, you want to start banging paddles, that's another kettle of fish altogether. And you've only got to enter the team manager.
Yes, in long races like this, the best philosophy is often that it's a good idea to try and buy yourself a ticket to the last hour of the race, and then after that, that's when you go sprint racing for the win.
Only problem with that is, easier said than done.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the Neil Crompton and Glenn Seaton team will be one team brewing what might have been, and we've got more problems for the products team with fire marshals again on the scene, spraying extinguishers underneath one of the cars, so it looks like more fuel leak issues for the product team. Yanina's going to catch up with Steve Glennie and find out what's gone wrong.
You're about to go in, but disappointing news. What's happened? Is it a fuel line rupture?
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but it's got a fuel leak and probably similar to the other car, and that looks like it for us today, unfortunately. Very disappointing.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into a race like this, but I suppose endurance, the key is consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the boys work very hard to get here, and we all do, but to have something like this, it's all part of it sometimes, but very disappointing.
What's happened, we think that the fuel tank's been rubbing on one of the driveline components, and basically if that is the case, the third car will only be a matter of time before it falls out of the race as well, which is really sad. Bob Pearson's gone to a lot of trouble to put all the good drivers and good team in place, and it's just disappointing that all the money and effort the guys put in, and you just can't seem to get a result. So Bob's a better man than me, he keeps coming back. I wouldn't do it if I was him.
Were you nervous about this today, or is it a bit of a surprise?
No, I think we've got a good team. You know, the crew worked really well today. It's just one of those unforeseen things. These same cars in this same configuration ran the 12-hour. So obviously we need to look at what we're doing different here compared to the 12-hour setup. So nothing's changed, just tanks are the same. Just a bit of bad luck, I suppose.
One car to go, let's hope you can make it through.
Well, there's a very difficult decision for Scotty Anderson and the team to make now, because they've got one other car. They've had 2 of 3 suffer a fuel leakage problem, and they're exactly the same car. So, Lockie, if you're a betting man, you'd think that that machine is going to suffer exactly that same problem in just a matter of time. Do you call the car in, or do you keep it out there and run the risk?
Well, it could be that the team don't need to make the decision, because the officials might make the decision for them. If the officials scrutiny the other 2 cars and decide that there's a problem, they might decide to make the team withdraw that third car from the race.
Well, that'd be an interesting call, I'm here to tell you, Lockie, because you're very, very hard to give a black flag or a meatball flag to a car that doesn't have a problem, I would have thought.
We see the number 000 car coming into the pits, and this is another scheduled pit stop for this car.
They've had a tough day, haven't they? But gee, they keep getting out there and they keep trying.
Anthony Sewell at the wheel of the car at the moment, and looks like he's going to stay in the car for now. Obviously, with that earlier drivetrain problem, they've lost a lot of laps. But for this team, it's more about just getting track time, but there's some coolant leaking out of the front of that car, so could be some overheating issues. I think this will be a long pit stop.
Anthony saw a bit of overheating there. Talk us through it.
Yeah, just a few laps before, it just started to get a bit hot coming down the straight, and then it would drop down again. in that last lap, it just temp got right up, and thought I'd bring it in and make sure we don't do any more damage.
Tyres are obviously the theme of today. What's it like out on the track? It must be so hot now.
Yeah, it's getting warm out there. I mean, these tyres actually are really stacking up pretty well, the Federals. So yeah, we were sort of wondering how they stack up, but they've actually done pretty well, and they're pretty consistent all day. So yeah, can't complain too much with our car.
And how many times do you think you'll go back in the car?
Hopefully, fingers crossed, another time. We've got Chris will hop in now, then Bruce, and then myself hopefully again. So yeah, we'll see how we go if it lasts.
Best of luck. Thank you.
The car fires back up and makes its way down pit lane, and it's all about development for this car now. We know that it's obviously not going to battle for the race victory, but the more laps that it's able to do out there on the circuit. Oh, bit wild midway through this race, a little bit wild. The product car on a charge, the 16 machine, the Best Corp security car, gets a wheel off into the dirt. That's not what you want to be doing in enduros.
In a Toyota Yaris as well. That Toyota Yaris has been...
What's wrong with a Toyota Yaris?
Nothing's wrong with the Toyota Yaris, Boydo. It's just that one's been flogged around racetracks more than what the Toyota Yaris has any right to be, but it's also been an extremely reliable car, very economical too. They can go up to 2 hours between pit stops in that car.
Absolutely. Just raced on Sundays. If you'll see it in one of the trading magazines, just driven on Sundays, you'll know exactly what that Toyota Yaris has been up to. Here's a car that's on song this weekend. I know that it doesn't have the horsepower of, say, some of the front-running cars, but gee, it's been reliable. It's been very kind outside of the one issue that we did see earlier on with the front right-hand tyre, and it continues to circulate, tick off laps, and do very quick lap times.
They're still very much a contender for an outright race victory as well, especially now that the two product Mitsubishi Evos that were in contention have been eliminated from the race.
Still got one of them out there at the moment though, the 38 King Walsh Metchler machine continuing to circulate. A lot of debate going on in pit lane about which way they should go with this product racer. But as you heard from Scotty Anderson, bitterly disappointing for Bob Pearson, who really does put a lot into his motorsport. And here is the battle for third and fourth position.
Yes, the Products car currently in position number 3, the BMW 335i currently in 4th position, and the BMW's been lapping a little bit more quickly than the Mitsubishi over the last few laps, and the BMW's also in a much better position strategically. They can get through the race on a lot less pit stops than the Mitsubishi Evo, so the BMW not with the outright pace of the Mitsubishis or the Subaru, but saving a lot of time through being able to make less pit stops.
See the back of the 11 racer just moving around a little bit, which gives you a pretty fair indication that they're not messing around. They're trying hard. Look at that, only about half a car length between the two. Down in turn 9, they start their run up to the final group of turns that lead onto the start-finish straight here at Eastern Creek International Raceway. And you want to be right up behind the product machine at this point to try and get the slipstream down the straight. You can see that's what's on the mind of the 11 car, but making it happen's another thing altogether. Onto the straight, uses up every piece of real estate and a touch more. Puts the power down. Is it going to be a drag race between the two? Yes, it certainly is. The BMW pulls to the inside and is going to do it easily by turn 1.
So changing the top 3 positions, the Tony and Clark Quinn car though continues to lead, now has a 4-lap margin over the Subaru STI with Gavin Bullis currently at the wheel. Gary Holt's now up to 3rd position, and the number 38 Mitsubishi Evo with Anton Metchler behind the wheel drops back to 4th.
Holt just running a little bit wide there, but still able to maintain the position over the good doctor, who's trying to keep him very honest. Dr. Anton Metchler has been racing for many, many years now, a very experienced campaigner in production car racing, has a passion for it. It's his golf.
Here's the number 21 car, the Honda Integra Type R, Terry Conroy, Bob Hughes, Jerry Burgess, currently in 5th position, and best of the naturally aspirated, the non-turbocharged cars, and also best of the front-wheel drive cars. Hope you're enjoying the Eastern Creek 8 Hour. We'll be back shortly after this break.
Welcome back to Eastern Creek Raceway. We are counting down in the 8 hour. There is the car that's applying all the pressure at the moment. Jim Hunter, Barton Moore and Gavin Bullis, the three pilots that have done a fantastic job on board the Subaru Impreza WRX so far this weekend, but there's still plenty of time to go.
They're currently in second position. They've been able to work their way forward after some tyre issues earlier on in the race. They've been reliable, they've been consistent in the latter stages, and they've been able to work their way back up into contention, but they're 4 laps adrift of the race leader, the VIP Pet Foods Evo 9 of Tony and Clark Quinn, which continues to absolutely dominate this motor race, and they're looking very hard to beat, Boydo.
You know, Clark's an interesting race car driver in the days when he was racing in Carrera Cup. Very, very fast around flowing, smooth circuits, had a passion for them, and there are a couple of turns here at Eastern Creek that do fall into that genre. Almost impossible to beat. It's those tight, twisty sections of the circuit that he tends to lose a little bit of time in, but a very experienced pilot, and teamed up with his father, Tony Quinn, who's just the ultimate racer, just gets out there and wrings the car's neck. They were always going to be a formidable combination.
Here's the number 13 car, one of 2 Renault Clios running in this race, so this is the sister car, if you like, to the Safety Stop, the Richard Gartner owned car. That particular car owned and run by Aaron Thorpe, Ian Thorpe and Mitch Hefferon. Aaron Thorpe currently at the wheel of the car number 13. I should point out too, Boydo, that Ian Thorpe obviously not the Olympic swimmer.
Oh, let's just go with that. Let's just go with the fact that he's a multi-skilled sports fanatic. Sounds more fun, but yeah, you're right.
And running a little bit wide through turn number 2 as well, obviously with front-wheel drive cars, understeer being the main handling characteristic, so very important to slow the car down enough mid-corner so that you don't run too wide on the exit.
There's the Safety Stop machine back out on the circuit, the 97 machine, Richard Gartner. One of the great things about Richard Gartner is I've probably known him for about 12 or 13 years now, since he was racing in the Mitsubishis, and I've got to tell you, in all that time, I don't think I have ever seen him where he doesn't have a smile on his face. He's one of the most enthusiastic people on life, not just motorsport, but life in general, that you'd ever want to meet. A great guy.
They call him the Minister for Enthusiasm for a reason, because he's so passionate, so enthusiastic about his motor racing. He's been doing it for a long time as well. He raced in the Ford Laser Series back in the 1980s against the likes of Mark Scaife, Peter Dane, David Brabham, Jim Zerafos. Then, as you mentioned, he raced in the Mirage Cup. Now spends his time racing in production cars and still loves it as much as ever.
He's teamed up with Keen Booker, a man who has been in motorsport for quite some time, another very enthusiastic campaigner. Away from the track can be a bit of a wild child. A lot of fun to hang around with. You're guaranteed to be laughing your head off the entire night when you're hanging around with Keen Booker. But when they get out into race mode, they're very, very determined to try and move their way forward.
Here's the number 11 car again, the Barry Morecambe, Nathan Morecambe, Gary Holt entry, and this car's been on a charge in recent times after slowing down a bit at the beginning of the race. Has picked up the pace lately as we see the number 29 car in for another pit stop and exits pit lane, but not smoothly, and in fact it grinds to a halt at the pit exit, so that's our race leading car suffering what would appear to be a mechanical problem.
Well, has he stalled it? What is the situation? The car is sitting there at the exit of pit lane, a precarious part of the track to be, obviously blocking pit lane at the moment, so it won't be staying there, but it doesn't look like it's moving, and this is costing valuable time for our race leader. Now, officials may push it back over the white line. If they do, now that will give the opportunity for the crew to go and work on the machine, and I think that was the 16 car, the Best Corp security car, that had to go almost onto the grass to find its way around the VIP Pet Foods machine. Now, back behind the white line, the crew can now handle the car, but this is costing them an enormous amount of time. Race leaders with a big cloud hanging over them at the moment.
They've got 4 laps margin over their nearest rivals, so they do have some safety buffer in terms of time to work out exactly what the problem is and try and rectify it. but this will feel like an absolute eternity for Tony and Clark Quinn as this car sits in pit lane. The bonnet now goes up. Brett Francis and the rest of the team will get to work and try and find out exactly what the problem is.
Well, it's a race-proven car. It's usually extremely reliable. You can hear them trying to wind it over at the moment. It's got the wind, but no spark, no fire up.
They're trying to crank the starter motor, but it's not kicking over, so that's not a good sign.
Oh, it almost wants to go, doesn't it? And then just sort of dies out. So whether it's starving for fuel or something like that, let's see if we can head down to the VIP Pet Foods camp and find out exactly what is wrong with the 29 machine.
More drama in the pit lane. The leading car, leading by 4 laps, actually stopped at the exit of pits lane with a flooded engine. Had to be pushed back by the fireys, then by their team to get it back out again. So we'll see if it goes.
Away you go. Can he get it going? He's having trouble getting it out of the pit. And it's stalled.
Well, that answers that question, doesn't it? They fired it up and it stalled again, so no luck there.
Got to be something a little bit more than a flooded motor, I would dare say, for it to fail after it's fired up. So problems in no small way for the VIP Pet Foods team. And this is allowing the 77 Hunter car to tick off laps and get closer and closer to the race lead. Who would have thought this at the beginning of the day?
And also the number 11 BMW right there in contention as well, moving closer and closer to the race lead. So very shortly, depending on how quickly they can get that VIP Pet Foods car fixed up, we're set for a 3-way battle for the lead of the Eastern Creek 8 Hour.
You saw the 50 Mini, the keen entered machine, just getting a little bit wild and woolly on the exit of turn 9. We're on board the Thought machine at the moment.
Having a look up the inside of the Toyota Yaris. Left indicator on for the Toyota Yaris. And I think that means you can come through on the inside.
And just don't take my mirror off in the process. You can see a very warm day here at Eastern Creek. Not too much cloud cover, keeping the track temperature and the compartment temperature very, very high here.
The Toyota Yaris actually has air conditioning, so they're the drivers who might be feeling the heat a little bit less than some of their opposition. Not normally something you see in a race car, is it? Air conditioning. Normally you want to maximise performance, so you take all luxury items out, but the Toyota Yaris team elected to leave the aircon installed, and the 29 car still stuck in the pits, still with the crew trying to work out what the problem is, and still with no sign that it's going to get back out onto the racetrack anytime soon.
Well, the bonnet and the boot are up. Obviously fuel starvation of some type, you'd have to assume. We heard it try and kick over a couple of times, but are unable to get it fired up. That's Clark Quinn behind the wheel at the moment, waiting for some sort of indication from the team that he's going to be able to get out there and go. But at the moment, all he can do is sit there and think about what could have been, and this is not a good look. It looks like they're about to push the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 9 into the garage. They certainly are. So they're out for a considerable amount of time. Tony Quinn at the back of the car, and this was not the sort of pushing and pulling that he wanted to be doing in this race.
Can you believe it? Leading the motor race by 4 laps, and they're going to relinquish the lead with a mechanical problem. How frustrating is that for the VIP Pet Foods team, which have led the race, dominated the race all day with the fastest car?
Well, they're trying to log into the Motec system to try and get some sort of indication as to what's going wrong. Downloading the data now, as you can see, to try and spot the fault. But unfortunately, they're not getting the answers they were looking for. And although they may have been 4 laps into the lead, it's like they say in motorsport, it's not over until that opera lady starts singing.
Brett Francis there, the team manager, going through all the various menu options and seeing if he can get some kind of answers as to exactly what might be causing the problem.
Sort through all of that data, do it really, really quick and get us back out onto the racetrack and don't make a mistake. Very simple to be a top engineer at a team, isn't it? If you're good at working under pressure and guessing, I suppose, in some respects. Sometimes in situations like that, jokes aside, you do have to just take a punt. You may not be able to find the answer for sure.
Now, the number 97 Renault Clio has steadily crept its way up the order all day and currently sits in 6th position outright. For a front-wheel drive, naturally aspirated four-cylinder car, that is a very, very impressive performance.
Down across the start-finish line, the dial before you dig, safety stop machine, clocks up another lap. Looks smooth out there on the circuit too, not bouncing around too much.
And it's one car that hasn't had the tyre issues of some of the opposition. The VIP Pet Foods team continues to try and solve their problem. Let's find out if they're any close to rejoining the racetrack.
Brett, tell us what you found out.
We're still a little bit confused. It seems like it was a fuel pump. When he went to drive it again, it was wouldn't run. Obviously had trouble starting in the first place. We had to turn it off to check the oil level. We know that they burned a little bit of oil, and over this length of race we had to check it. So when he went to start it again, obviously the heat soak probably went through into the fuel rail, vaporised some of the fuel, and it didn't have enough head of pressure there. So I'd say there's probably the fuel filter fuel pump. It'll probably keep running along like a song now, but obviously the damage is done. So see how we go.
Richard, you shouldn't be laughing. What's happened to your head there?
Oh, well, a little Renault Clio dropped on my head, so so there we go. Now, look, a little incident helped our driver to get in, and as they dropped the check, the roll cage just basically hit the head. Good thing is there's only wood, so it didn't do too much damage. It's all good.
So Keen Brooker's going to go out there and do another lap and then another change?
Yeah, Keen is going to stay out there for an hour or so, and then Carl Tremby is going to finish the race off for us. I won't go out anymore, unfortunately. So.
You have some butterfly stitches, show us your scar.
Yeah, something like that.
And the roll cage just came down on you?
Yeah, it did, but the good thing is the roll cage is still intact, so it's fine. So no problem at all, you know. Car's still going good.
This is now the battle for the race lead between the number 11 BMW 335i and the number 77 Subaru WRX STI, and what a cracking battle it is as well. The BMW running just a little bit wide into turn 2. The 77 Subaru goes up the inside and takes the race lead.
Wow, you mentioned the word cracking. It was almost cracking between the two, wasn't there? There wasn't much between them as they continue to battle for the same piece of real estate. But at the moment, it's the 11 car that sits back and is going to have to watch the 77 car try and scoot off into the distance. I think that's Barton Moore behind the wheel looking at the helmet. And Bart, of course, from Sydney originally, did spend a bit of time, as I mentioned earlier in our commentary, overseas, racing at some of the great race circuits across the world. In the British Formula 3 Championship.
And young Nathan Morecambe, who's been racing the Australian Formula 4 Championship, is behind the wheel of the BMW, and he's just about to head overseas and try out his racing talents against some international drivers.
So hard to do. Interesting to note, in the British Formula 3 Championship, Barton would tell me that not only would they ram into the side of you out there on the circuit, but they would actually do it going down pit lane coming out onto the circuit. Such was the competitive nature of motorsport over in the UK.
It's a cutthroat world over there, isn't it? But what we've seen is that a lot of the drivers have gone overseas, done some open wheel racing over there, have then returned to Australia and have come back much better racers once they've got back into this country.
Same year that Bart was racing in the British F3, there was also a man by the name of Will Davison, who's accomplished himself very much so in the ranks of V8 supercar racing.
James Courtney, another driver who raced in the British Formula 3 Championship and also now a very accomplished V8 supercar driver back here in Australia.
Down through turn 2 they go. Not a great deal between them at the moment, but it's the Jim Hunter motorsport machine that holds down the most coveted piece of real estate in motorsport, the race lead. We've still got a long way to go in this race. Oh, the BM out in the sticks. Now, you'll lose time. You could damage a tyre. Many things could go wrong, including suspension problems. You don't want to be doing too much of that.
Here's the third place car, the number 38 Prodox Mitsubishi Evo 10, the sole remaining Evo 10, and it looks like more tyre problems for that car. Mark King there getting ready to get into the car. He's got his drink bottle there at the ready, so he's had lots of success in production car racing in the past, and he's going to be the one to get in for the final stint.
He's such a nice guy, Mark King, but when you see him, you're just scared. You're scared because you think, I don't want to upset the guy, but he is such a nice person to work with, and a guy whose knowledge, because of his business with King Springs, is very much in demand in motorsport circles. when it comes to setting up a car suspension-wise, there's probably none better than Mark King in the business at the moment. He's sitting there behind the wheel of the Mitsubishi, being patient, waiting for the fuel to go into the car before he's let loose out onto the racetrack. The man who has won the Australian Performance Car Championship in the past, a very good race car driver, a very clean race car driver too. I've got to say that, I'm scared of him, remember?
And he rejoins the race just ahead of the VIP Pet Foods Mitsubishi Evo 9, which is now in 4th position as a result of those problems with the car earlier on, and will be looking to get back into a top 3 position.
Yeah, he won't get past Mark King as well as he got past Anton Metzler, I don't think.
The hazard lights are on the number 38 car.
Oh, well, that can't be, unless he's just bumped a switch. Now that would be an indication. Well, you would think it'd be an indication for the VIP Pet Foods car to go past, but not the case at all. I wonder if he's just hit a switch by mistake, because he's still well and truly up on race pace, and he's defending his line from the 29 racer.
Maybe he's put the hazard lights on some intimidation measure.
It's working. Well, it's put the 29 car off its game, hasn't it? Clark Quinn behind the wheel at the moment, and Clark could be in two minds. I want to have a go up the inside, I want to move forward, but I'm not real sure what this bloke up in front's doing at the moment.
Quinn will be driving hard at the moment as well to try and recapture some of that lost time after all those problems that they had with trying to get the car started up down in pit lane, so he'll be on a mission right now.
Well, we saw the Yaris give the indication to overtake on the left-hand side earlier. Perhaps Mark King is saying overtake on whichever side you like, if you can.
Or don't.
If you can.
Alternatively, don't overtake at all.
Down across the start-finish line, they come to complete another lap. Now, I definitely say he's just bumped the switch by mistake, because there is no way he is slowing down one iota.
Yeah, that car's got pretty reasonable pace at the moment, hasn't it? It's been able to pull a bit of breathing space over the VIP Pet Foods machine.
It's good to see them get that car back out onto the track after earlier fuel issues. Force them into the garage and force them to give up the race lead, but they're back in this race. But can they make each lap a winner for them? Can they work their way back to the front of the field?
Black flag though for the number 38 car, and I've got a feeling, Grant, that this might be the problem we were talking about before. The officials concerned that with the problems for the other two Products cars, that there's a safety issue with this car, so they're going to have a look at that car and see if there's any fuel leaking issues with that car as well.
Well, if there is some fuel leaking, then obviously that would be a bad thing, and they'd have to withdraw the car from the race, but just hoping it's not speculative. That's really a team manager's call, but I'm sure the stewards know exactly what they're doing as Gary Holt gets reefed unceremoniously out of the way.
And Barry Morecambe, the owner of the car, gets behind the wheel. Gary Holt is with you.
We're out of fuel. So I don't know how far to go, but the bottom line is that hopefully we can finish. Can we finish this on one stop? We can go all the way. If we do that, we can win.
And the number 38 car has retired from the race. So all three Products cars out with essentially the same problem, and you can see that yes, there is a fuel leak with the number 38 car, so a good decision there by the officials to withdraw that car from the race.
So unfortunately the third Product car has been garaged. Although it wasn't on their choice, the officials actually deemed the car to be too unsafe to be running around with everybody else because of the problems with the previous two cars. Now those problems are that the carbon fibre fuel tank has been rubbing on the drive shaft and causing holes, so when the second tank fills up it leaks fuel. And it looked like it was the right decision, because just as they've parked it in the garage at the request of the officials, it's leaked fuel everywhere.
Three Mitsubishis having the same problem. Any further?
It's a fuel tank issue. Basically, the officials made the right call. The tank was not going to finish the race as it was anyway. We're just trying to prolong the inevitable and keep running for our sponsors, but that's the day. Day's done.
Very apt timing. Just as the car came in, we saw the fuel spilling out and the fire people were ready.
We just did that for TV for a bit of excitement, a bit of extra activity.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks a lot.
Well, Scotty Anderson obviously bitterly disappointed to be out of this race with 3 cars, but you've got to think about safety first, Lockie.
Yeah, you can't make compromises as far as safety is concerned, so for the sake of the safety of everybody in pit lane, definitely the right decision. One team that has been going a lot better, though, was the Terry Conroy team, and Terry is with Yanina.
I believe we're 4th outright now, so
the pressure's on Bob.
The pressure's on Bob, but Bob will handle it fine. He's did some fantastic work this morning, and all we've got to do is keep it on the island and finish in, an hour and a half.
You think the Honda's been pretty consistent overall?
Yes, it's been marvellous. It's a great car. It's done already this year, done a 12-hour and a 6-hour, so we hope to complete an 8-hour.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Well, they're getting closer and closer to achieving that goal at the moment, aren't they? The car still out there, continuing to circulate and continuing to hold its head up very high.
And well on target to be the best of the naturally aspirated cars in this motor race, best of the front-wheel drive cars as well, and currently running in a very, very impressive 4th place outright.
There's the Hunter, Moore and Bullis car down in pit lane for a tyre change. Now, is this another flat? No, it just looks like a standard pit stop. Probably their last of the day, you would think. Barton Moore behind the wheel. And good to see the 147 car back in pit lane. It will come out and continue to circulate.
So that car's spent many, many hours in pit lane having gearbox and flywheel components changed. The team have worked exceptionally hard, and that car will rejoin and hopefully get to the end of the race.
And giving themselves a round of applause, and they deserve that too. Never say die attitude in motorsport. It's to be admired.
So they're not going to get the result that they were looking for, but just to get to the end of an 8-hour race is an achievement, and if the pit crew have had to work hard to get the car back onto the track, then they will very much feel part of the final result as well.
There is the number 11, Morecambe and Holt machine. Oh, and he's looped it round too. Just a little bit overzealous on the accelerator. Perhaps the tyres being a little bit second-hand at this stage of the game. Tried to correct, was all over.
Well, Nathan Morecambe was pushing on very hard to try and keep up with the race-leading Subaru, maybe just pushing a little bit too hard, and lost it in turn 7.
The 97 car, the safety stop, dial before you dig. Entered car of Gartner, Joy, Booker and Shembry in pit lane. Driver change.
Keen Booker getting out of the car.
Keen just grabbing his espresso machine. You always threatened to do that in the Alpha. Whack an espresso machine in there just to make sure everything was okay. Does have an interesting choice of musical selections too when he's out there in a race car, and does put the CD player on too. I'm not joking.
He's had a couple of class wins in the Bathurst 12-hour, driving the larger 159 Alfa Romeo diesel. This is his first race in the smaller Renault Clio, the petrol-powered car. Here's the top 3 cars in the motor race, the top 3 outright. Not in the order, though, of their actual positions. The BMW in second position, the Subaru, which is in first position, and the VIP Pet Foods Lancer Evo 9, which is in position 3.
Still with plenty of work to do, but time is still there if they're good enough. There is the 147 coming back into pit lane again. The Alfa Romeo, that's not a good look, straight into the garage.
So they were hoping to get back out to complete the race, but it looks like they've got some further problems with that car, so they'll spend some more time in the pit lane, and the pit crew for that team are going to be absolutely exhausted after today's proceedings, that's for sure. They have worked exceptionally hard, and that car's spent a lot more time in the garage than it has actually on the racetrack.
Well, I mentioned the VIP Pet Foods car was getting very, very racy. You can see it on your screen at the moment. It's on a charge, trying to pick back laps. Let's head down to the pits and catch up with the man himself, Keen Booker.
Yeah, it was a long stint, but it was sensational. A lot of fun out there. A couple more cars would have made it sensational, but we did a lot of good times, I think.
Did you feel any movement with the front tyres?
every time I heard a little noise, I thought it was a tyre. Every time I faded a little bit or moved a little bit to the right, I gone, uh-oh, tyre. But no, it was good. It was good. The car's sensational, really well prepared, and it just goes like clockwork, lap after lap.
So this should be the last pit stop?
Yeah, that'll be last pit stop. Actually, I heard that noise. It was a compressor running. I thought, geez, what's wrong with the car? But that's only the compressor. So no, it'll be the last pit stop, and Carl will bring it home. It'll be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A great guy, Keen Booker, and he's having a lot of fun here this weekend. Speaking of fun, how would you like to be on board the 29 machine at the moment, Lockie?
Well, they've got a furious battle on their hands because they need to try and get themselves back onto the lead lap. They are currently one lap down on the race leading car, the number 77 car of Jim Hunter, Gavin Bullis and Barton Moore, and they're going to get their lap back too. What they need now is a safety car. Let's go down to Sam for a racing update.
With only 1 hour left in the inaugural 8 hour at Eastern Creek, we've got a very interesting race unfolding. We've still got the Subaru STI leading, and Barton Moore is at the wheel. Second is the BMW 335i with Gary Holt. And third, we've got a major comeback from Clark Quinn, the Quinn Jr. of the team, who has made up an awful lot of time to come back into third. In fourth place, we've got Bob Hughes doing a great run in the Honda Integra. And in third place, we've got a great battle between those two cars with the Clio 197 with Carl Shembry at the wheel. That's how it stands with 1 hour to go.
Well, there's still time for that car to get its way to the front end of the field, but they're going to have to wring its neck.
And more problems by the looks of it for the number 29 car, the VIP Pet Foods team. And this is a disaster for them because they had just managed to get themselves back onto the lead lap, but now they've lost more time. It looks like the car's stalled once again. So any chance that car had of getting itself back into contention for the outright race win, you'd have to say has now evaporated.
Well, that's bitterly disappointing because they were trying to find their way back onto the lead lap, but now it's not going to happen, Clark Quinn.
Seems to be the same problem.
Yeah, it is. I'm not too sure, but every time we take this out for an endurance event, it has a different problem every time. But it's still a very good car, very competitive, and generally very reliable. But
there seems to be some fuel leakage at the front there, and they've got the jacks on to sort of reboot it again.
Yeah, look, I think it's over. I think we should save the tyres and wait for the next event, maybe.
Might be the Frosty Paws entered machine, but he'd be hot under the collar at the moment, Clark Quinn. Now there is your race leader into the pits. Barton Moore stays behind the wheel as the 77 car comes back out. And this has got to be its final stint.
Yeah, you'd expect that to be the final pit stop for that car. That car should now be able to go to the end of the race without having to stop again. The VIP Pet Foods team's woes continue. More data investigation to try and figure out what the problem is. They've got, looks like, a battery pack connected to the terminals of the car battery there as well, so could be some electrical problems now starting to creep in for that team.
Oh, just winding the car over and over and over with no spark would be enough to send the battery flight, so that wouldn't be that'd be as a result of what's going wrong rather than the cause, I would think, as we see the 21 car go straight past the 97, as you would expect, still doing... Oh, well, in fact, the safety stop machine fights back. That's not in the rule book, is it?
No.
Or in the script anyway.
This is a great battle, isn't it? Not for position, obviously, although the cars are only one position apart.
Tell them that. May not be for position, but gee, aren't they trying? And that's what's great about this sort of racing too, isn't it? Cars with different performance characteristics.
And when it's getting late in the day and you are a fair way apart in terms of track position, it's good just to have a little bit of fun, and those two drivers certainly seem to be enjoying themselves. We've got the cars here in positions 1 and 2. The Subaru continues to lead now, almost a lap ahead of the BMW, which is in second position.
And here comes the VIP Pet Foods machine back out onto the circuit. Look who he comes upon as soon as he comes out. Unbelievable. It's like it was a few laps ago until their woes started. Oh, very close between the 77 and the 11 that time. These guys are now, at this stage of the race, with about half an hour left to go, are racing for cattle stations.
Nathan Morecambe absolutely shut the door on Barton Moore then, didn't he? He turned hard left on the exit of turn number 2. He knows that he's about to go a lap down. He doesn't want to go a lap down because if there was to be a late race safety car, then he would be right in contention for outright victory. But you'd have to say that at the moment, the Subaru just seems to be a fraction quicker than the BMW.
I've known Barton Moore since he was racing Formula Ford, and I can tell you this one thing, Nathan, he will take that personally. You can guarantee. And you could tell by the attitude of the car. It was moving around. Bart looks to the inside now. Under brakes, and will do it.
So the number 77 Subaru WRX now leads the race by 1 lap over the BMW 3355. Barry Morecambe, Nathan Morecambe and Gary Holt. And this has been an impressive performance from the Subaru team. Hovered around the top 5 in the early stages of the race, but didn't really emerge as an outright threat for victory until a little bit later on, but is now in a very strong position as we head towards the closing stages of this inaugural Eastern Creek 8 Hour.
But smart tactics too. Hey, listen, we know we can't match it with the pace of the guys out in front, so why don't we go out, concentrate on our own race, concentrate on our own lap times, get all the pit stops right. If we do everything right and they have issues, we'll end up winning this race. And it's fallen directly into their hands at the moment. No mistakes from that team right across the weekend. One blemish, of course, with the tyre going down that we saw, but that you've got to expect. You've got to expect those sorts of issues under race conditions. They've been absolutely flawless.
The Alfa Romeo 147 looks like might be getting ready to rejoin the race in the not too distant future. David Filippetto, the car owner, is with Yanina.
Yesterday we had an axle flange snap on us, so we changed that overnight. And we had a turbo problem yesterday, so we changed the turbo overnight as well. And today we've had a couple of gearbox problems, so we had the gearbox off twice. And then we made a bit of a mistake in the pits with all the rush and that, so we put the clutch on back to front. And then we also found that we had a flywheel. We've got one of those dual balance flywheels. So anyway, cut a long story short, we've done a bit of a bush mechanics job to clamp the flywheel together, and we've sent it out on a wing and a prayer, and I think we'll make it to the end. So we actually had to get the pit crew working because they came here all day to do some work. So that last pit change was to actually get them to earn their money. So.
And what's happened in the last pit change?
In the last pit change, we actually brought Glenn in. We're hearing some noises. We actually think that the flywheel's starting to fragment itself and start to fall apart. So as much as we would have liked to have done the last hour, we've sort of erred on the side of caution and brought it in, had a bit of a look, and now we'll set him out for the last bit of the race and he can take the checkered flag.
Hope you finish. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So basically they've rebuilt the car a couple of times.
It sounds that way, doesn't it? But
well done by the team. I really got to take my hat off to them, Lockie. I mean, we've been watching them right across the day. They've done an amazing job.
Well, they're going to make it to the finish of the race, one would think. So good job by the team. Barry Morecambe's another driver who's done a very good job throughout this race, and he's down in the pits with Yanina.
How's Nathan going out there in the BMW?
Yeah, no, he's doing a great job. He's doing exactly what we asked him to do, and the car's showing good pace right at the end. So, and the tyres are good, so we're fueled to the end. We're very close, but we should be right.
Is this the first endurance race you've done with your son?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the first time, so it's a good way to finish, I think.
And he's an experienced driver. He's done Formula Ford, and he's looking to go to the States, I hear.
Yeah, he is. He leaves on Saturday. Next Saturday, he leaves to go to the States. He's going to race Formula 2000.
So all he needs to do is get it to the end?
He does, yeah. He's just got to keep stroking it along and get it to the end. So.
And overall today, you think the BMW's been very consistent?
Yeah, no, the cars run faultless. You know, we only had a little bit of trouble with some tyres. That was all in the first 2 stints. Otherwise, I think we would have won it. You know, I mean, other than that. So.
Hopefully, see you on the podium. Thank you.
Well, it has been an extraordinary day. It kicked off early in the morning, and we thought we were going to have a whole different group of cars standing on the podium. But while they all had their issues, while they all sorted out how their day was going to go, Jim Hunter Motorsport flew below the radar. Barton Moore at the helm at the moment, and he has 1 lap left to go, Lockie, and it's all over. It'll be a Jim Hunter, Barton Moore, Gavin Bullis victory. How good have these guys gone?
And how long is this last lap going to feel for Barton Moore? After 8 hours, he's going to be hearing all kinds of noises in that Subaru WRX that he won't have heard all day. But for the Jim Hunter team, this is a superb result. They've had some tough results in the past in production car endurance racing. They've had some non-finishes at the Bathurst 12 Hour. They had a big crash in the 2010 Bathurst 12 Hour in their Subaru STI, but this is a fantastic way for them to bounce back. All three drivers have been superb. Gavin Bullis has had to adapt from his touring car Masters racing to the very different handling characteristics of the Subaru WRX, but he's done exceptionally well. Jim Hunter's also driven really well, and Barton Moore, a very talented driver, asks to bring the car home.
Well, right up and down the field, those that have finished this race have got stories of woe and have got stories of triumph to tell at the end of the day. 8 hours around Eastern Creek under these blistering hot conditions is no mean feat at all. As you can see on board the Subaru Impreza WRX at the moment, they have got just a couple more turns to go, and Barton Moore, the former open-wheeler racer who's now back in Australia looking for a tin-top career, will steer it onto the start-finish straight for the final time. Jim Hunter and Gavin Bullis, they've lived up to their end of the bargain by no small feat. Bullis, with the opening stint, which was scintillating, put the car in a perfect spot, and it's Barton Moore with the headlights ablaze that's going to take out the inaugural Eastern Creek 8 Hour with a victory for Jim Hunter Motorsport.
What an outstanding performance from that team. First production car race win for Subaru for 2010. In fact, first production car race win for Subaru for quite some time. The BMW team comes home in second position. And there's the VIP Pet Foods team. A question for them of what could have been had they not had those mechanical problems when leading the race by 4 laps.
Now, we've given obviously the VIP Pet Foods team a pretty big pat across the back as the 21 car comes down across the line. Now, a great job by the Conroy Hughes and Burgess team too to be the first normally aspirated car home. But what about the performance of the Hunter crew? Absolutely flawless, no mistakes right across the day, and as a result of that, they've taken an outstanding victory here at Eastern Creek.
But Moya, Miles and your crew are wondering why you're not driving a V8 supercar.
Yeah, that's what they throw around. But what a great race for the whole team, and a really tough race. But just goes to show that you don't need an Evo to win these sort of races.
Your performance was very impressive. How hard was it out there? It's been very hot today.
Look, at the end there was really good. Part of me wanted to keep going and do 12 hours. But look, we were battling a lot there. The seat was coming loose, so I was flopping around the car, and the steering wheel was moving, and we had a bit of a miss going. So it was a matter of getting it to the end. But once again, you know, the Jim Hunter's team's just done a great job, and I'm just so happy for everyone because it's been a big effort, and they really deserve this.
Nathan, congratulations. How was it for you out there?
Oh, it was pretty hot and sweaty in the last few laps there, but I tried to unlap myself in those last few laps, but I just couldn't catch Bart enough.
It's pretty tough up there at the top, a lot of competition for you.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of competition across the day, and just the Evos was a bummer that some of them fell apart, but I was glad the BMW was consistent and stayed together. I'd like to thank Rondo and Plastermaster.
Well, congratulations with third. It's a good comeback.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you'd written the books, I wouldn't have said we would have been third anyway, or maybe third, you know. But the product guys and stuff and everything else, I mean, from a 4-lap advantage to third is all right.
Well, that was the inaugural Eastern Creek 8-hour production car race, the third major production car endurance race of season 2010. Hope you've enjoyed all the action. On behalf of Grant Boyden, I'm Lachlan Mansell. See you next time.
And the VIP Pet Foods machine off the line with Quinn at the helm, getting away very, very cleanly, and will lead them down to turn 1 on this opening lap. As now Neil Crompton leads the Product Motorsport number 35 car out onto the track after starting from pit lane. That's the battle for third, and the 77 car of Hunter, Moore and Bullis goes through and picks up another spot. They're really up there racing at the moment. Look at that sideways, the Product cars. So, a flat tyre by the looks of things. I'm wondering if that's the case. Front right looks a little bit low, and I thought I saw a whiff of smoke as Gavin Bullis drove it into pit lane.
The car that continues to dominate the opening stanza of the race is the car we're on board with right now, the VIP Pet Foods number 29, Clark Quinn, currently at the wheel of that car. And another flat front right tyre. This time it's for the Renault team, car number 97. Richard Gartner, Carl Chambry, Keen Booker and Francois Jouy.
Oh, problems.
The Chris Reeves, Bruce Colby, Anthony Sewell car have stopped at turn 2, and that will trigger a safety car intervention.
There is the 16 car, the Nescorp security machine, and a flat tyre. Once again, right-hand front, they are copping a pounding today. And as we catch the 35 product car down in pit lane.
And the car gets the go signal, but there's flames.
Fire in pit lane. The fire extinguishers are out. Scott Anderson there, team manager. You'll see with the green shirt on the fire extinguisher, and other crews have come out into pit lane.
Got more problems for the products team with fire marshals again on the scene, spraying extinguishers underneath one of the cars. So it looks like more fuel leak issues.
Puts the power down. Is it going to be a drag race between the two? Yes, it certainly is.
We see the number 29 car in for another pit stop and exits pit lane, but not smoothly, and in fact it grinds to a halt at the pit exit.
It looks like they're about to push the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 9 into the garage. They certainly are.
And what a cracking battle it is as well. The BMW running just a little bit wide into turn 2. The 77 Subaru goes up the inside and takes the race lead. We've got a black flag though for the number 38 car, and I've got a feeling, Brad, that this might be the problem we were talking about before. And the number 38 car has retired from the race. So all three product cars out with essentially the same problem.
Morecambe and Hope Machine. Oh, and he's looped it round too. Just a little bit overzealous on the accelerator. Will steer it onto the start-finish straight for the final time. Jim Hunter and Gavin Bullis, they've lived up to their end of the bargain, and it's Barton Moore with the headlights ablaze that's going to take out the inaugural Eastern Creek 8 Hour with a victory for Jim Hunter Motorsport.
Coming up after the break, we wind back to the second round of the 2006 Australian GT Championship from Mount Panorama as part of the inaugural Bathurst Motor Festival.